So hello everyone, good evening, and I just wanted to let you know that we welcome you to Randall Library. My name is Lisa Coates and I am the first year engagement librarian, and I'm also liaison to creative writing as well as English department and also the University College and Honors, so lots of stuff going on. But on behalf of our university librarian, Sarah Watstein, who could not make it to this evening, and all the members of our programming and exhibits team, we wanted to welcome you to Randall Library. So before I introduce the moderator of this Queering the YA panel, I just wanted to say a few words about programming and exhibits at Randall Library. The library supports the mission of the university by providing information, resources, and learner-centered services by cultivating a rich physical and virtual environment dedicated to the open exchange of ideas and information-literate community. In this endeavor, we are lucky to partner with various colleagues and academic programs across the university and the campus, and we do this regularly. Tonight's panel, in fact, is a collaboration between the Department of Creative Writing and English Department, also the LGBTQIA Resource Office, and the Women's Studies and Resource Center, as well as the library. On Wednesday, April 15th, we'll also have another collaboration between the Publishing Laboratory and UNCW graphic design students, among others, and that will be our annual Flash Fiction event, which is actually nonfiction this year, so that's a new thing. And that collaboration will be happening upstairs in the auditorium. Current exhibits throughout the building include the Black History Month celebration, which is right behind me here. Also, we have a UNCW Honors College exhibit curated by the University Archives and Honors College, and an exhibit for the Women's History Month, which is upstairs on the second floor, and it's featuring the work of the artist and activist Heather Alt, and that's on the second floor gallery. So please take a look around Randall after this event. So later in the semester, Randall Library will host 2 exhibits that feature student research as we welcome the Center for the Support of Undergraduate Research and Fellowships, better known as CSURF, annual poster session, and this year's recipient of the Michael D. Wentworth Study Travel Fellowship. You can check our website at library.uncw.edu for details of all the events and exhibits we have. So just a few words about the bibliography that you have in your hand. We wanted to show our support for the topic at this in our collections, and so that is an actual selected bibliography. We had to stop because we have so much materials, and that is more of a current selected bibliography. And it was spearheaded by our education librarian, Catherine Batten, and Tanya McCoy in the Curriculum's Material Center. Also, their students helped out a lot. And then just special thanks to Stephanie Croy for the meticulous last-minute editing she did, and John Crawford's graphic design, which is obvious in that. So finally, it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of this panel. Professor Mei Li Chai is a new assistant professor in the creative writing department here at UNCW. She's the author of 8 books in both fiction and nonfiction. She's a past recipient of an NEA fellowship in prose, and her young adult novel, Tiger Girl, was just named 2014 Asian Pacific American Libraries Association Award winner for Best Young Adult Book. So I want to welcome them.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you all for coming out tonight on such a beautiful day, and thank you, Pomegranate Books, for coming here and representing our wonderful independent bookstore here in Wilmington, and they routinely stock and promote books from all types of people and writers, including our LGBT titles, so thank you so much. I'd like to first just say a few words about why we decided to put together a panel on queering the YA. And I think all of us come to it from different angles, but we felt this was an essential subject. As we all know, literature creates empathy and understanding. And one of the things we think we need more of is empathy and understanding, especially for the LGBT community in America. And just to give you some startling statistics, there have been about every year, this is going back to 2012 is when I have the stats for, about 4,000 YA books that are published in America. And of those, between 1.9% to 2.4% have any type of queer character or theme. So that's a very, very small percentage. And this is why we feel we need to encourage the study, the discussion, and the writing of young adult books that have queer characters and themes. They're just severely underrepresented in the marketplace. So today, I'm going to introduce our esteemed panelists. First, I'd like you to meet Katie Peel. She is an associate professor of English, as well as the director of the Women's Studies and Resource Center. She regularly teaches undergraduate and graduate courses on young adult literature, as well as children's literature and queer narrative. Her interview with Leslie Newman, the author of Heather Has Two Mommies, will appear this fall in the Journal of Lesbian Studies. And then speaking next will be Christopher Rhodes. He is actually a literary agent. I'm sure you've all heard faculty members talking about their agent. Oh, I'd send this to my agent said this and that. What is an agent? Christopher is here to tell you. He began his career in publishing in 1996 as a bookseller at Borders Books at the World Trade Center. He has held positions in both the sales and marketing departments at Simon & Schuster, and was executive assistant to Carol Mann of the Carol Mann Agency, where among other duties, he managed contracts and assisted in the sale of foreign rights. Currently, Christopher also works as the Facility and Cultural Activities Liaison for Randall Library here at UNCW. A few of his recent sales include Taylor Brown's debut novel, Fallen Land for St. Martin's, a debut novel at Other Press, and Tin House Books, and a collection of humorous essays. After a while, you just get used to it, for Gotham Books. Okay, then Nina de Gramont will be speaking. She is the author of 3 young adult novels, Meet Me at the River, The Boy I Love, and Every Little Thing in the World, which was an ALA Best Fiction for Young Adults recipient. She is also the author of the novel Gossip of the Starlings, as well as a short story collection of Cats and Men, and her novel The Last September will be published this fall. Her work has appeared in 17, Redbook, and Harvard Review. And of course, she is a professor here at UNCW's Creative Writing Department. And finally, at the end, we have Vic Malo. Victor is an assistant professor of English education and was previously an English teacher in an urban Title I middle school. His research agenda focuses on the effects of literature on adolescents' attitudes toward constructs such as rape, myth acceptance, homophobia, and suicide. And what we're going to do is I'm going to have each one of our panelists say a few words about their work, their research, and then I will start asking some questions, and we'll open it up to Q&A from you guys. And then finally, we're going to have 2 wonderful students reading from their creative work, Kristen Bowman, an undergraduate, and Bethany Tabb, an MFA student. But first, I'll start with the panelists. So, Katie. What should I give you? Try giving you the Go back for the informal.
Thank you.
Hello. I get nervous, so I had to type some stuff up. So good evening, and thank you all so much for coming. It's great to see so many familiar faces from both young adult and queer demographics, and faces I don't know yet, so that's also very exciting. As Mei-Li said, I teach both young adult and queer lit, so I can give some context for the work that Nina and Mei-Li have done and are doing. When we're talking about young adult lit, and my students in the audience know this now, even though we can connect it historically and in genre to things like the conduct books of the 18th and 19th centuries, young adult lit as we know it is really an American post-World War II construct. Young adults following the Second World War were a new consumer demographic, and young adult lit was aimed at white middle-class females, pretty much, who had both leisure time and spending money in ways that they hadn't during and before the war. If we think about that, what came before the Second World War, the Great Depression, right? So young people, the demographic that we think of as young adult, most of them were working, right, and didn't have pocket money to go spend on books, and they weren't treated as the demographic that they are today. Also, socially, females were encouraged to read in ways that males weren't. So we saw the emergence of this new consumer demographic in both the development of magazines aimed at female teenage readerships, like 17, all of those magazines came out in the late 40s, early 50s, as well as book publishing. And my students also know that if you go into a bookstore today and just look at the offerings, this is largely still who authors are writing for and about. You can tell from the covers, because we do judge books by their covers, right? The target demographic is still white, middle class, females, largely straight. Among the many reasons that we read literature, of course, is to see our reflections of our own identities and experiences, right? Another reason is to safely experience the things that we otherwise wouldn't in our everyday lives, and the classic examples are war and violence, right? Ideally, none of us have to experience that, but we need to learn about it. Diversity of identity and experience, then, is important for both people who identify as marginalized as well as those who don't. It's damaging when we can't see representations of ourselves. Most of the studies done on this are about race and the consequences of what is referred to still as the all-white world of children's literature. Certainly we can apply this to sexual orientation as well. And so I have some of the statistics that that Mei Li mentioned. Melinda Lowe, who many of you know, is a young adult author, began compiling stats about the LGBTQ representation in young adult lit a few years ago. Here are some of her recent numbers. In 2013, at most, 2.4% of the entire YA market that year included an LGBTQ character. Last year, in 2014, mainstream publishers published 47 LGBT YA books. And, as Mei Li said, usually there are about 4,000 titles per year, so this is slightly above 1%. That said, it's a 59% increase from the year before, when only 29 books were published by mainstream publishers with an LGBTYA character. Also last year in 2014, out of those 47 books, 24 or 52% were published by major commercial publishers, and this might be something that Christopher can address. The other 23 or 48% were published by small publishers. And this is new, this is beginning.